bathroom reading here. The president of the Toronto Argonauts.
There you go.
Keith Pelley.
You know what?
Jonesy.
I marvel sometimes. Pell, you're president of the Argos.
Jonesy and I used to work together back in 1984, 5.
Yeah. Used to sit on the row writing highlights for Landsberg.
Yeah. Peter Watts, John Wells, Terry Leibel.
And like we used to hand our scripts in.
He is the nicest printer you will ever, and he has
Really?
a meticulous attention to detail. Have him print something for you.
Well, he's a former high school. You don't even bring a pen? You're co-host of the show, and you're a former,
Right, just
you're
write.
a former
just
high
write,
school principal.
Touchdown Williams.
How can you not bring a pen?
No, you're writing.
Oh,
but
he's
you can
writing now.
Yeah.
He's writing. You know what he writes like? Oh, don't give him the evil pen.
No, I heard about that one on the drive-in. It leaks.
That's the evil.
No touching.
That's the evil pen. Don't
Touchdown Williams. Pell, what I want to know is, will Ricky be able to dance in the end zone?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I went up. I told Bobcat this in Charlotte this year.
Gotta get there
Raptor
first.
game. I went up in the elevator with two guys, obviously referees, umpires, back judges,
Sure.
whatever. NFL. They had the NFL embroidered on their bag. We go up in the elevator. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Raptors are there to play the Bobcats. Get on the elevator with
Great name.
these two guys. And, yeah, I know you'd like that.
Great nickname.
And I say, hey, guys, how you doing? Stone-faced. Like the guys that guard the queen. Like nothing. Guys here for the game tomorrow? Should be a good one. Panthers pushing for a playoff spot. Nothing. I push my floor, get off. See you later, guys. Nothing. Nice talking to you. Nothing. I thought, you know what? It's cats like those that are throwing flags when guys are getting touchdowns and dancing. So no wonder. It was brutal.
Yeah,
No fun league.
Yeah.
So can Ricky dance?
No. I don't know if.
I mean, will he dance in the end zone?
Some of our guys have pretty good rhythm, but I have no idea if Ricky can dance. Some of our guys like to go for popcorn.
Pell danced in the end zone. We used to play football in the MLFL, the Michael Landsberg Football League on Saturdays and Sundays, and Pell would score touchdowns and like jump around in the end zone. It's like I will say this.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
You can, but you won't.
I don't know. Okay, did I used to?
He only scored touchdowns when he was on my team, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Can we get to the topic? I don't know that we have one necessarily. By the way, Ricky will join us a little bit later on, and also David Cinnamon's going to be around for a while.
Ooh, my boss.
A little bit later on, yeah. And you may or may not be gainfully employed after. I want to talk about the chronology of events that took place, as you understand it. But let me start, because there's been a lot of stuff said and written since last Thursday,
Right.
when we first started this discussion here, and we haven't had a chance to talk to you on air.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to clarify or that you believe was inaccurately reported here over the course of Thursday or Friday? I don't know how much you heard. I know you heard some.
Right.
But was there anything that was bothersome or that you felt was fundamentally inaccurate about the chronology of events that led up to that point, at least?
No, I think that Ricky decided to come here on his own, and he was here for a week because he wanted to learn about the city, and as you said, we didn't find out about it until actually 3 days afterwards, when
Find out about what, Keith?
that Ricky was actually in town, and he was staying at one of his friends' place and he was teaching yoga, and he was going to yoga classes, and from there then he checked into a hotel, and then when we found him, the only thing that I would say was we moved him ourselves to the Four Seasons when we found out that he was here, to get him to actually maybe have him see Yorkville, nice little area. And,
The recruiting begins.
As opposed to the airport Holiday Inn.
yeah, as opposed to the airport Holiday Inn, although the Holiday Inn's very nice there, but it's not the Four Seasons in Yorkville.
No.
So we moved him there, and it's kind of funny because 2 days after we moved him there, he said, hey, guys, if you want to move me to a cheaper hotel, I don't need to be in this hotel. So that kind of says everything about Ricky.
All right, so let's go to the chronology of events.
Sure.
Then. So Ricky arrives, on or about Monday of last week, about a week ago?
Yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah, we started the dialogue probably now 4 weeks ago.
Right.
Right. That
And Adam was on, actually, the night that you placed him on your neg list.
Yeah, we put him on the negotiation list. It's one of those things that all of a sudden it stimulated some dialogue and people.
Where'd that come from, Keith? I mean, just putting him on that list. Where'd that come from? Like, how much did the Dolphins have to do with this? Like, you know what? We want this guy kind of busy, not to be idle.
We put him on our negotiation.
You just put it on.
list. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
All right.
They jumped on it just like you explore every opportunity. That's kind of what our philosophy is. Regardless if somebody goes down. That's how we ended up with Arland Bruce. Arland Bruce was a great player, went down to the NFL, wanted to come back here. So we're going to explore every player. We even explored Ricky Ray when he came back here, and then ended up in the Eskimo. So we put him on the negotiation list, and from there, we started the conversation with Lee Steinberg. Started the conversation with the Dolphins, the NFL. It was a very, very complicated issue, as you can well imagine, and so then that takes weeks and weeks and weeks to move it along, and it really started to heat up last week. And the funny thing is, Ricky, by coming here, and then all of a sudden Lee Steinberg by coming here, really expedited it, man. And they knew that, with training camp coming up, and even the Dolphins knew that he needed to, if it was going to happen, right? And this was crucial. If it was going to happen, it had to happen pretty quickly, because your risk of injury is, it increases every day if you don't have that long training camp to get ready. So they knew that he didn't want to be rushed into a game. So that was another factor, that the reason why it happened as early as it did in the last couple days.
I got a chance to sit with Lee Steinberg, as you know now, last week, and,
Right.
and he indicated that he did a lot of research on the Toronto Argonauts on Ricky's behalf after, I guess, now I don't remember who it was from your organization that contacted Lee initially.
Right.
But he then did his homework. He got a copy of the press book and the media guide, and started reading up. I guess he probably Googled you and the owners and pinball, and then said to Ricky, you know what? This is a pretty interesting group of guys, and go from there.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. The first time I talked to Lee Steinberg, he's an icon, a legend, and I was just excited to be talking to him, and I started saying just a little bit about the Argonauts, and he knew about my past, he knew everything about, so exactly, and maybe that's why he is as good as he is, because he did do extensive research on the Argonauts. He knew all about our Stop the Violence program. He knew that we were the community active team. He knew about our players. In fact, he even knew about the program that we're doing up in the Sprucedale jail with our players going into the detention center, rehabilitating the youth. And he goes, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to believe me, but you will when you meet him. Ricky will be a perfect fit for your organization. He goes, just trust me on that. Now, we can debate it. You can go ahead and Google Ricky and read all about him. He goes, but I can tell you, I know your organization now in terms of what you've done. I'm really curious to meet you guys, but you would be a perfect fit for Ricky and for the and for himself. Lee as well.
Did you guys talk extensively with Lee, or how much did you talk with Ricky, or was it all through Lee?
I talked to Lee for hours and hours, and then
so you hadn't really talked to Ricky.
No, we hadn't
at this
talked
point.
to Ricky until last Wednesday, I believe, and then it was 4 straight nights that we spent with Ricky. But as far as Lee goes, yeah, Lee was the one that we were talking with the most. And then all of a sudden, when it starts with an exploration, and then it becomes a little bit more serious, and then you go, ooh. Now we're into
this could happen, right?
Now, so at that particular time, you're calling everybody that that could know Ricky, from colleagues from my former life at Fox to people in San Diego to Miami. Like anytime, it was funny because anytime a Miami reporter called me looking for a clip, it was like, oh, okay, this is a good opportunity for me to interview them, to learn a little bit about them. So by the time I sat down and met Ricky, I wasn't as surprised based on what I had heard.
And did you get the same reaction that I got from everybody I talked to simultaneously, both on the air and off? And that was, you'll love this guy. He's different, but he's genuine.
Yeah, one of the guys from the Miami newspaper said, the biggest thing with Ricky which is different, is he's smarter than most sports writers are. And he said, myself included.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what he said. He said every once in a while he'll say something, and you'll look at him and you'll go, what exactly does that mean? And about 2 hours later, you'll go, I'd love to ask him that question again, because that's what it could mean. He's very, very, he's a philosopher. He's a thinking guy, like Pinball. He really is. And it's funny because he's like Michael in terms that he doesn't drink, he doesn't swear, he doesn't say an unkind word about anybody. It's he's a special guy.
We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll chat some more. Ricky will join us a little bit later on. His first day of practice now complete. Also, David Cynamon, one of the co-owners of the Toronto Argonauts. It's prime time. You're listening on The Fan, watching on Sportsnet. 25 minutes past the hour. It's prime time for Monday, May the 29th, 2006. Behave, for God's sake. Paul Jones to my left, Keith Pelley, the president of the Toronto Argonauts.
I just want you to ask Pell, who won the 86 NLCS?
Okay, who won the 86 NLCS?
It wasn't the Houston Astros.
No, it wasn't the
why don't we
Astros.
just leave it at that?
Why?
I was a huge, massive.
Mike Scott cheating, scuffing the ball.
No, you can't.
He was
We're not even
cheating,
going
Pell.
into Scott Prude. He was not.
Okay.
Can we get back to the topic? Do you mind?
Yeah.
He was a
All
big
right.
Mets fan. Are you still a big Mets fan?
Yeah.
So, I don't even know where we were. Wednesday, Thursday.
Yes,
Wednesday, you find out Ricky's in town. You meet with Ricky.
Right.
Lee comes into town on Wednesday afternoon.
Right.
Flies in, and you guys kind of hang out for the next few days. And Miami is aware of the situation and had already at that point given their theoretical blessing to this.
Right. Well,
But they hadn't signed off on it. And that proved to be sort of problematic.
yeah. We had I'd spent 3-4 days in the office with Lee Steinberg, and we were waiting for the Miami Dolphins at that particular time. And then behind the scenes, the Miami Dolphins said, "Listen, we're going to either approve it or we're not going to approve it. But while you have, because then at that point we said, well, listen, Lee Steinberg and Ricky are here. Can we start at least negotiating a deal? Can we at least start talking? And even then, if nothing happens, then so be it. But if you do then give us approval, we don't have to then start the negotiations."
We're a little bit
So-
ahead, right?
Yeah. So what they did is they allowed us to do that. So we started the talks with Lee and with Ricky. So then by the time, and that's why it happened so quickly, because by the time the Dolphins then gave us the approval, we had already had our deal with Ricky.
Okay, so they approve. Who was the biggest stumbling block there? Was it people in the front office, or was it people on the field, like coaches and the? Because
Well-
I heard the theory, and that a caller called in, and I'm the same way. Ricky's gonna love Toronto, and like if he had his chance, maybe he might stick around. So who was the biggest stumbling block there, Keith?
Well, Ricky's going to love Toronto in 2006, and Ricky's going to love Miami in 2007. Nick Saban, the head coach, is somebody that Ricky talks very highly of, and he is somebody that talks very highly of Ricky. We were dealing with Nick Saban and the president there, Brian Wiedmeyer, and Brian, and they were both fantastic. They wanted to make sure, the number one thing that they wanted to do was to make sure that Ricky could return to the Dolphins in 2007. They have a tremendous amount of time for him on the field and believe he can still be an instrumental part of the Dolphins in 2007, 8, and 9 when that's how long his contract is with the Dolphins. And they just absolutely admire him in terms of off the field. Because, from a coaching perspective, a guy like Nick Saban, that magical phrase, high maintenance, well, he's incredibly low maintenance.
Well, and
So
from
if
what
you've
I've
got
been told,
yeah.
In terms of Saban as in Miami, he still has a lot of the college coach in him in terms of caring for his players.
No question.
In that
absolutely, and it goes both ways. So, Saban looks at a very talented player and a guy that is low maintenance. And that's a great mix. A guy that in the locker room is fabulous, never misses a practice, works hard, and so. The real thing that they were worried about was whether he would come up here and get injured, because they definitely want him back in 2007 as a key part of their offense.
So what exactly did you have to provide to the Miami Dolphins to ensure that Ricky would go back in 07 and that the option year in the CFL contract would not preclude that?
Well, it was a little complicated based on the CFL bylaws. It never took into account that one of their players that could go back in the one of our CFL players that could go back in the option window are under contract by an NFL team. So, for example, if you're playing for the Kansas City Chiefs and you've then you go and play for St. Louis, and then you say, hey, listen, I want to come up to Canada because I've been released. You come up to Canada, but you still think you still have aspirations to go back to the NFL. You sign a 1-year deal and a 1-year option. And during that option year, there's a window to go back to the NFL to sign another deal with the NFL. And that's how we lost Parker this year, Byron Parker, who went to the Dallas Cowboys in that NFL window. And that's
January, February, isn't it?
Yeah, it's between January 2nd and February 15th.
Right.
So they wanted to make sure that based on the fact that Ricky has already signed a contract, that he can use that NFL window, because it never states anywhere that you can. So then we had to bring the commissioner in to give us clarification. He ruled that emphatically he can't. We had to get, as you can imagine, guys, outside legal counsel, inside legal counsel.
Did you get any hassles from any other players, so to speak, teams in the CFL saying, well, hold on a minute, about the option, and why is Toronto getting special treatment here, or was it perceived in that way at all, Keith?
Well, the other option that we had was to the other way that you can go back to the NFL is you can release a player after 1 year
And have him clear waivers.
Then he has to clear waivers.
Well,
right. So I went to every single governor and asked if they would not pick him up, and actually all of them, most of them. There was one team that I'm not sure where they're located. It's just about 30.
It's down the QEW.
Yeah, that's right. Down the QEW. Weren't as enamored with the idea as we had hoped. So
so everybody but the
that
Hamilton
didn't happen.
Tiger Cats approved on.
You said that, Keith didn't.
No, I know he didn't say that.
I think that's now getting.
I think
out
it may be out there, but
yeah, I hear that is. I got a couple calls on that today. But regardless, the commissioner ruled the other way, and Miami finally agreed.
one of the bosses on the phone. Here's the co-owner of the Toronto Argonauts, David Cynamon.
Keith is the boss.
Hey, David, how are you?
Good, Keith. How you doing?
I'm excellent. I'm here with Paul Jones. We used to work together back in the late 80s.
Hello, Paul.
Early 80s.
David, I'll be calling you for a job in a little while.
Anytime. There's openings now. We need more help answering the phone.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that the truth? Like, I'm telling you today, I've never seen anything like it. We can't, be patient, people. If you're calling looking for tickets, be patient. We've got 8 people answering the phone, and as soon as they hang up, the phone rings. So the other way to literally, I have to tell people, if you're calling and you want to get tickets, go to argonauts.ca because you can get the tickets online, because it has been absolutely crazy today.
Were you in the office at all today, David?
I was, because I was filming Off the Record down the hall. So I came in to visit and see how the boys were doing, and phones were going absolutely nuts.
So tell us about give us your personal evaluation of Ricky, because you spent the better part of the last 4 days with him, at least good portions of that time, I made to understand. So give me your personal evaluation of this guy.
Yeah, well, I've been thoroughly impressed. Not only is he a gracious individual, and not that I didn't expect that, but I was very impressed with how gracious he was, how sincere he was, how intelligent he was. I think it's out there and known now that we went to a movie together, and he ended up explaining it to me because, not only was on the BlackBerry half the time, but I still probably wouldn't have understood it, Da Vinci Code, and he is a very well-read individual who now understands himself very well. And, I think a lot of us out there in society think we understand ourselves and what our needs are and what makes us happy. This guy, and I don't think it's true and accurate for most people, this guy's pretty compelling and believable that he understands what makes him happy today and going forward versus the past. And he is very deep and very compassionate, and I'm very impressed. And every minute I've spent with him, I've not only enjoyed it, I've actually learned some things. I've
told people, because you spent a lot more time with him than I've had the opportunity to so far, at least, and I've said to people both on the air and off that I think it's almost impossible to spend any amount of time with this guy and not have absolute confidence that when he tells you something, it's the truth.
Well, not only that, but I think you can relate to what he's saying, and as soon as it becomes a little bit more layman, you can relate to what he's saying. He talks a lot about how he thought all his life growing up, winning the Heisman and being a great college star was going to bring him happiness. That was his goal, and then when he finally won the Heisman and was a first round pick and received all these millions of dollars, and he wasn't any happier. He realized, there's something else out there for me. And I think a lot of us, may just not necessarily be that happy with what we're doing, and there's something else. But he took it upon himself to quit football. And I think, it's obvious that he made some mistakes on the path that he took, but they were, for the right reasons. And I think they were good. They were intentionally good. And they didn't turn out to be necessarily that good, but he is genuinely a good person, and you know what? Good people deserve chances, and if it's second or fourth or fifth, it doesn't matter, because I think we're smart enough in the Toronto organization to realize who is a good person and who isn't, who can add value in society and our team and who can't. And this is an individual who definitely can, and we are lucky and fortunate to have him.
I'm very happy with what I'm doing now, David. I thought I should tell you that.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
Well, not everybody's happy with what they're doing. I'm very happy with.
Because after a few pints the other night, you were complaining a lot.
Yeah, and it's not what he told me, David, by the way, but we'll talk about that later.
David, not everybody, like yourself, Keith, Bob, will get to spend time with Ricky to get to know him in that way. I mean, for the general populace, the masses, they have to depend on other means. What should those people be looking for to say that, to kind of confirm the stuff that you guys have seen from him when you sit down and talk to him in person?
Well, I think as soon as you hear Ricky speak, and you guys are going to have him on, which is fantastic, and he's been on the air and doing some press, and so that's an initial introduction to really how sincere and intelligent the guy is. But we need to exploit him properly to the community, to children. I mean, he is a guy who's cleaned up his act, whatever that act was, good or bad. He's cleaned it up, and he has a story to tell. And he has a story to tell in a very compassionate way that I think is going to help a lot of individuals that are part of our Stop the Violence campaign, our anti-bullying, and probably a lot of other good opportunities and good charities and good community groups out there that need someone to tell a story, someone who's been there, someone who's been lost within himself and has found himself and found happiness and made the mistakes and fixed them. Not just talk about the mistakes and not just talk about the fact that maybe society won't give them a second chance, but to prove, he's made the mistakes over and over again, and he's now being given a fourth or fifth chance. We need to expose him out there and utilize that in the community the same way we've been doing with all of our great Argo players throughout the community.
Let me ask, I don't know who this question is better addressed to. Probably either one of you can answer this. Do you have a commitment from Ricky as to his public service outside of playing football?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it in writing? Do you have a certain amount of time that he's committing, or is this just a theoretical?
Yeah, it's interesting because that was something that was discussed at length with Lee and with Ricky in terms of the number of appearances and so forth. And really, he said, well, first of all, how many can I do during the season? And what he said, with kids and students and so forth, how many could I do? And I said, well, tell me about, what's the training camp? How does practices work? Then he said, because I really like to watch film. So he said, so why don't we leave this? Anything that you need me to be at that doesn't interfere with my football, because football is no question my number one priority, and my teammates are my number one priority, and then he says, and serving my coaches and so forth. He says, but anything after that, he said, you just let me know and I'll do it.
He's one of his greatest...
and that's really what I think, David. You agree?
One of his greatest passions he's talked about often is teaching. His role as a teacher, and that doesn't mean going into a classroom and having a 9-to-5 teaching job, but to teach. He loves teaching yoga for example, he loves to give back and to teach. So this wasn't a difficult negotiation to determine how much time and effort he was going to give to the communities. He wants to do that. That's why he took off to Australia, and that's why he's been in California with the yoga. In a perfect world, if he had enough to live on, that's all he would do. So it wasn't a difficult discussion. Also, one more thing, when we talk about his character, and we're really only talking about the last 4 days, and I think we shouldn't overestimate that 4 days is not necessarily enough to know an individual inside and out. But we've done so many character references from his past, and even his days that have been somewhat tainted. That these are character references that just stand by this gentleman and support him and his character and his nature. And yes, he's made the mistakes, but we can't find anyone that has a bad thing to say about him.
David, Keith, I just want to ask this. What was the incongruence then in the NFL where he wanted to do this and obviously has this passion for being a mentor, a teacher, where was the incongruence with football there? I mean, was it strictly a time thing?
The way I understand it, and from a lot of our players that have been in the NFL, it's a different animal, and it's a different business, and it's full time with tremendous pressure. And not to say anything negative about the NFL, because I'm also an NFL fan, but players there are treated a little bit more like a pound of meat. They're replaceable. There's a lot of college athletes coming out, tremendous pressure and tremendous demands. It's a different environment, and a lot of our players say, "Boy, I'd love to make the NFL money, but I want to continue to play in the CFL." They love this league for that reason. It's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more relaxed.
Dave, we're going to let you go. I think Ricky's going to join us in just a few minutes. We got to take a break before then. Always good to talk to you. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Thanks for having me, guys, and take care of Keith there. We need him back at work in the morning.
We'll boot his ass out when we're done with him. David Cynamon, the co-owner of the Toronto Argonauts, with Paul Jones, Keith Pelley, and himself. Ricky Williams will join us when we come back, and Primetime continues. You're listening on The Fan, watching on Sportsnet. 12 minutes before the hour. McCown, Jones, Pelley around the table here. Ricky was going to join us, but we only have 3.5 minutes in this segment here, and that's clearly not enough time. I don't know how much time Ricky's going to have, but 3.5 minutes isn't enough time to really do anything. So we're going to hold Ricky over until the top of the next hour.
Except
6:06.
Order food. Pal, do you remember Sunday nights after the late show at TSN?
Will you stop with the...
Remember when we used to go bowling?
Always. Bowling, yeah.
So I got this book. Fresh off the wires. The Montreal Alouettes are glad to see Ricky Williams in the CFL, but wonder if an end run was made on the rules to allow the NFL running back to join the rival Toronto Argonauts. Says General Manager Jim Popp, quote, "I have no problems competing against him, but that's not the issue. I'm still trying to figure out how he and other players have been able to sign contracts when they're under contract to another league. It's in our standard contract. That's not supposed to happen." Unquote. Well, what kind of an end run did you
There was no end
execute?
run. There was no end run. We went to. There is a clause in this standard player contract that states that you're not allowed to sign another player that is under contract. We went there very, very early with the commissioner, and he said that really is up to the individual player himself as well as the team. And so he allowed us to do that. So we just crossed that out of the standard player contract, initialed it, both of us as well as the commissioner. So there was no end run here at all.
No.
To be totally honest with you, every single thing that we did in this was buttoned down, and we because like I said, it was a complicated issue based on the fact that he was a signed player. But we did find that there was precedent for this dating back to 1999. But
Is this sour grapes?
Oh.
Pop says...
I think that Adam and Greg, I think, don't have time to comment on other team. They're focusing on our team, and maybe Mr. Pop should focus on the Alouettes.
Pop says, "I don't think it's appropriate. I could have easily looked into Ricky Williams, too."
Well, then,
then maybe he should have.
Well, when he says it's not about competing against him, it is. Because when Ricky, busts his backside for like 3-4 touchdowns, then what?
Well,
I mean, like that. I mean, I'm with you in that sense, Keith. Like, hey, it didn't happen. You could have. You didn't. Coach your team. Worry about your team. And that with no disrespect to Montreal. I mean, hey, they're the defending Eastern Conference champs. So you know what? They've got a fine team there. But hey, worry about your stuff.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because one of the first calls came from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers who said, sign him, because we open against Winnipeg. Their home opener is against us. So, in fact, all the teams
Greed,
in the West,
lust, and pestilence.
all the teams in the West were so incredibly supportive. There was a little concern from Montreal and some concern from Hamilton, but those are our two greatest rivalries, and I think I have no problem with Mr. Pop's comments, but
tell him you'll go play him at the Big O and they can sell it.
Yeah, they're inaccurate. There is no end run here. Everything was above board.
All right, Ricky's going to join us in a few minutes, and Keith's going to stick around because he's got nothing better to do. Keith Pelley, the president of the Toronto Argonauts, is here. Rob Falls of Sportsnet will join us, and we'll do a little roundtable too. And Ricky Williams, newest player, Toronto Argonauts, first day of practice in the Canadian Football League. We'll get his reaction to it when primetime continues. You're listening on The Fan, watching on Sportsnet.
This is Primetime Sports on the Fan Radio Network and Rogers Sportsnet. Here's Bob McCown.
6 minutes past the hour. It's primetime, coast to coast on the Fan Radio Network and on Rogers Sportsnet for Monday, May the 29th, 2006. It's a roundtable which will be interrupted shortly. Paul Jones to my left from the Fan and Sportsnet, Rob Falls of Rogers Sportsnet across the table, and the president of the Toronto Argonauts, Keith Pelley, who was, for those of you still with us on Sportsnet or on the Fan, our flagship station in Toronto. Mr. Pelley, the president of the Argonauts, has been with us for the last hour. We've been talking about the Ricky Williams situation. David Cynamon was with us earlier. And Ricky was scheduled to join us in the last hour, but we ran a little tight on time. And so Ricky's going to join us in this half hour. In I'm guessing about 10, 15 minutes or so from now. He'll have a few minutes as he is in the midst of doing what I guess all football players do on their first day of training camp and getting acclimatized. Ricky was on the field at 9 o'clock this morning, give or take.
9 o'clock, yes.
Were you out there?
I got there about 9:30, and it was the zoo started. There's a lot of.
What do you mean by that, Keith? What kind of zoo are you speaking of?
Oh, the media started to come in. There was a lot of reporters coming in from Miami, both television, print, and it was funny because we have what's called the Tim Hortons Camp for the Champs, which is this week. We have about 800 to 1,000 kids for every practice. And one of the Miami reporters said, What are those kids doing here? Like, so different than in the NFL. They're not used to seeing an open practice, but then kids. And then all of a sudden what happens after a practice, all our players divide the kids into different groups, and they actually run the kids through drills. Well, then you see the Miami guy going, what are they doing now? I said, well, they're actually taking the kids. What do you mean? Do you do this every day? Like, what is this? He said, that's one of our players out there with the megaphone. And you see Michael Fletcher, our linebacker, having the kids do 40-yard dashes. And it's like one of the funniest things you've ever seen if you're from the NFL world, because you can't get into a practice in the National Football League, and our practices are open. So it was really quite fun to see.
How did Ricky jump right in with both feet?
Oh, he was it's surprising because the way practice after that, then all the kids get around in a circle and with our players, and they take them through the Argo chant, and then after it's autographs, and so every player is like 20, 30 kids deep, and Ricky just was obviously he had the biggest group around him. I think that's the first time ever.
How did he do with the chant?
Practices,
How did he do with the chant?
He did the chant. Jonathan Brown leads the chant. I watched perfectly to see if he did the chant, see if he was boisterous in the chant. But it was the first time I think ever that I've seen more kids hover around Ricky than pinball.
Yeah.
Which was kind of
one of the questions I was asked by a fan in the first hour of this program today, and I thought it was an interesting one. I said honestly, I don't know. and you may not know the answer to this yet, although theoretically you would know,
Right.
how the other players are going to respond to not just a Ricky Williams being Ricky Williams,
Right.
but being it may be the best known football player in the world.
Right. Well, that will, time will tell. I think they will really enjoy the extra coverage. I think the extra attention at practice and so forth. They'll get used to that very, very quickly because many of these players came from big schools. Like I mentioned, Jonathan Brown, who was
Big-time
I think
programs,
that-
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He played in the Super Bowl, and you got Eric England that started with the Cardinals. These guys are used to that. But in terms of them fitting in with Ricky, I think that was something that we talked to our players about. Prior to it, was if this was something you wanted, but the real and emphatically.
How did you address
said,
that? Did you have a meeting with the players?
No, individually.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah?
absolutely. I talked
did you
to
give them
probably about 12, 13 players.
And you say, what do you think?
Absolutely.
And what was the response?
Oh, absolutely. It was to a man. It was absolutely. Even Jeff Johnson, who was the running
stands
back.
to lose.
And I spent quite a bit of time with Jeff, and he said, there's no doubt that I feel like this is going to be my year, but I'd love to learn behind Ricky. I'm totally comfortable if that's the way the organization feels that they can win, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, all the players want to do is win, and Ricky Williams gives us a better chance to win. And John Avery is one of the classiest men I've ever met. He stood up and he said, listen, he goes, you guys don't owe me anything, right? The Argonauts have treated me really well. He goes, I have been involved in this city now, and I've been able to launch a career because he's a comedian doing a lot of different stand-up. He said, I will continue to play wherever you want me to play. When I'm in there, I'll play 110%, which I never figure out how you can do that, Paul. But I will definitely play as hard as I possibly can, and if you whatever you need me to do, I'm there, and I can guarantee you,
here's
John
the thing,
Avery
though,
will be with the
and
Argonauts this year.
with John Avery, why do people get their knickers in a knot? In baseball, you can never have too much pitching, right? In basketball, you can never have too many big guys, right? So what is it in football? Well, John Avery, Ricky Williams. Like, why can you not have both
Reps.
of them? And
Football, you got to have reps.
but still, though, when it comes to the game, I mean, you're a professional. You stay ready. If they both are in there, and I don't know what Kent Austin is thinking in terms of your offense, Pell, but why could you not have both of them in the game? I mean, that's more weapons.
No, I addressed that earlier. I mean, I don't know what the philosophy is. Have you talked to Kent
sure.
about it? I mean, you
talked
could have
about it.
theoretically, you could put both of them in the backfield.
Well, theoretically, you can. Obviously, a ratio becomes a real issue, and
Sure.
And in terms of if you could play all Americans, then there's no question. Then that might be something that we would consider, and it still might be something that we consider. But those are the decisions the coaches have to make. And as Adam and Greg said, it's our job to give the coaches enough weapons to make the right decisions. And I think it's.
John Avery's a weapon, though. Like, why would you not? Why would you give him away, or why would you?
I think you keep them. You just players, especially football players, want to get in there and knock heads. I mean, you cannot knock heads in practice the way you do in a game.
True.
And I think that's the key. Is if you're the third guy, all of a sudden you're going, I haven't hit anybody on the line. I'm not sure what's going on. It's a lot different than practice when you just kind of cruise through the line.
I can tell you, there's a lot of guys now, with Avery, with Stokes, with Bashar, with Tony Miles, that we can.
Your special
put
teams unit's fabulous
put
now.
back there to return kicks as well. So,
No blocking, just outrun them.
we'll put Arlan Bruce back there, Tony Miles, everybody back there. Yeah, just like touch football, absolutely.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we don't know exactly when, but in the next few minutes, Ricky Williams will join us from after his first day at a CFL training camp. You're listening to Primetime on the Fan Radio Network, watching on Rogers Sportsnet. 17 minutes past the hour. Mr. Pelley has wandered off. He has things to do. I neglected to say goodbye to him, but first he was leaving at 6, and then he was going to leave and I just lost track.
And then he sprinted out of here.
And he sprinted out. So our
Phone
thanks,
stuck to ear.
our thanks to Keith Pelley for joining us in studio on what's been a very hectic few days, and certainly today is hectic as well. We're just waiting for Ricky to complete whatever it is he is doing. I'm told that he's been, not surprisingly, inundated by media requests, and clearly not just This is the intriguing part of this, is while this is a big story in Toronto, a pretty good-sized story in all of Canada, this is a big story in the United States as well.
Coast to coast, too.
Yeah, and I just sort of started to get a sense of it last week as we waded through this story, and I found out that Ricky was in town, and then and Lee was here, and then started to go on the internet and started to realize the pages and pages of stories that were being written in newspapers across North America, across the United States, about this possibility.
I talked to my brother last night who was out doing a track meet for ESPN in Eugene, Oregon. And he was listening to ESPN radio, and he phoned. He said, "Hey, I heard Pelley talking about Ricky Williams." I mean, Mark lives in Fort Lauderdale, so there he is now. This morning, picks up the paper, and calls and says, "It's done, right?" I said, "It's done." I mean, you're right. It's. I mean, from the northwest to the southeast, it's everywhere. And I think, because of who Ricky Williams is, and unfortunately, because of some of the things that have followed him or he has done in the past, it is a huge story.
One wonders. And I haven't addressed this even in my own mind. I'm speaking off the top of my head. One wonders if this creates an opportunity for the Canadian Football League south of the 49th. While there is this great buzz today, will it dissipate? Will the Sports Illustrateds who are in Toronto, will the Miami Herald who has a reporter up here, and all the other newspapers and TV and radio people that are here and or coming, does it create an opportunity for the Canadian Football League to create attention in the United States?
I can answer that because in 96, 97, ESPN had a deal with the Canadian Football League, and that was the Flutie years.
Right.
When Flutie moved to Toronto, ESPN hooked up with the CFL and bought a game of the week that they showed on ESPN or ESPN2. They ran on ESPN until college football began, and then it moved to ESPN2. And they did it because Flutie was the name of the CFL. And they thought that they could piggyback off the popularity of Doug Flutie. And they ran for 2 years, CFL Game of the Week on ESPN. The numbers were good until college football kicked in. And then, boom, off they went.
Yeah.
And they only budgeted a 2-hour window for it. So what they would do is they'd collapse and telescope the game and try to keep the plays in. So they tried it then and they were trying to capitalize on Doug Flutie, a name everybody knew north and south of the border, and thought that would be a good thing.
But hang on. With all due respect to Doug Flutie, this guy's a bigger name.
Correct.
This guy's
they tried it with
a Heisman Trophy winner, and Flutie was.
Yeah.
But he is a guy who was a star in the National Football League. Doug Flutie never was a star.
And I think that's maybe why it only was a 2-year deal. They didn't get the return they thought. I only know this because I did the ESPN games for a year, and then they disappeared after their back-to-back Grey Cups. And I think you're right. Maybe because Ricky is a bigger name, has huge cred, huge talent, and he proved it in the NFL, that maybe this might be a window opening again for CFL in the U.S.
See, I agree, Rob, and I think it really depends on what kind of a start the Argos and Ricky get off to. If it gets going and, they win their first couple of games and Ricky's instrumental, then people will have an eye to what's going on. I think if it doesn't go like that, they might watch just to keep an eye on what's going on and see how it's going. But if it dissipates, I wouldn't be surprised because of, how he's playing or how the team.
Well, CFL games, I'm not 100% sure that I'm accurate here, but as I understand it, CFL games are televised in the United States
on a regional
cable network, sports networks.
Yeah. I don't know which one it is. And I think
there may be several.
Several, yeah.
And if you have one of the satellite companies, DishNet or DirecTV, you have access to all of those games, assuming you have the windows open, right? So it's not that it's not out there. It's out there a little bit. I just wonder whether
it's like
this...
hockey on OLN.
Yeah, well. But I mean...
Will those people tune in that have DishNet, DirecTV? Yeah. Will they tune in and watch to see what's going on?
It's football, and here's a story that for the last week almost has been as big a story in North America as there is on the sports pages. In fact, it's probably been played lower in Toronto than American markets, because we are in the Blue Jays are playing. We're in the midst of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and
the draft pick overall for the Raptors.
Hockey puck mentality in this country, and I mean, which may or may not be justified, but This, I just want people to understand that this is a significant story in the United States. I don't remember a story of comparable significance like this.
Here's the other thing too, and Rob, you know this. Football's a channel stopper.
Yeah.
People on a Sunday night in December will watch, the 2-10 Arizona Cardinals against the 4-8 New Orleans Saints, and they'll watch it. Football's a channel stopper. And again, though, I think that the Argos and Ricky have to get off to a good start to keep the iron hot in the U.S.
Yeah, I think they have to. I think the CFL has to jump on it now and say we have an opportunity here. Every game of the Argos will be on television. What is there? One last year who did not get on television. That was the BC game early in the season.
Yeah.
I would assume that will be addressed immediately if Ricky Williams is playing with the Argonauts. That every game will be on television, and the CFL's got to make sure that they say to American networks, "We'll make it available to you," or "Let's get something going." So if there's a demand, let's address it. And I think there'll be a demand.
I mean, what does it do for the Canadian League itself? You heard Keith, sitting across the table here just a minute ago saying other teams
they can't answer the phones fast.
Yeah, and other teams are saying sign him because if you bring this guy to town, we're going to sell out our place too.
You think the Argonauts can the Argonauts sell out?
I don't know about sell, but they'll see a bump. They'll certainly see a bump in numbers.
Would you be surprised if there aren't 40,000 in the stands for opening night?
Sure
but think about the other places though. Think about Winnipeg. I mean, they sell out. I mean, all you have to do is whisper football in Saskatchewan, and the place is filled. What about
Has
some of
there
the other
been
places?
a draw this big ever in the Canadian Football League?
I think there's been intrigue this big when you go back to the Ferragamo, the
that was prime of his
Cousineaus.
career.
I think you go back to those guys. There was
He
intrigue.
had white shoes. Johnson when he came up,
No.
but not the same level.
No.
I mean,
Joe Theismann, but then again, Joe
But he was
Theismann
young.
came
He
out of
started
Notre Dame.
here, yeah.
Rocket Rahib Israel, but he came out of college.
yeah.
So
I mean, out of a pro rank like that, everybody was on the downside. Ferragamo.
Vince
and
Ferragamo
you look
was
at everybody.
yesterday's news.
Yeah. Phillips was he was in news, but in a different section in the newspaper. You're right. I mean, a guy who can play. He demonstrated that just last year. He can play. I don't think there's been anybody like that.
I don't think so either. By the way, just as an aside, we were talking about television in the United States. Inevitably, somebody calls and tells us what the story is or corrects us, as the case may be.
Thank goodness.
Comcast and MSG both carry.
A game of the week?
I don't know how many games, but they carry CFL football, and it's available on DishNet.
Okay.
I don't know if not available on DirecTV, just DishNet.
Well, doesn't
Seem likely, doesn't
DishNet own DirecTV?
It's on both. Yeah, both. Yeah, both. Yeah, to be on both. I mean, if you're on Comcast, if you're on MSG,
Tape delay basis?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be surprised. You're asking me way too many
No,
questions.
I'm just wondering if that was the information.
No, I got
passed
no
on.
other information. I got basic information.
Basic cable. Basic information.
Comcast MSG Live, they say now.
Okay.
So there you go.
And the question is, though, will it hold that interest when college football starts?
Oh,
That's tough.
I
That's
don't
tough.
think so.
No. Yeah, and that's
That's
the thing.
tough.
I mean,
But it's interesting. In the course of this, I was reading. I spent more time on the internet this past weekend than I ever do. And one of the things I read a little blog, which I now understand what it is, from a guy in Southern California who happened to catch a CFL game on television recently and sat down and wrote a blog and said, I've been an NFL fan all my life. I looked down my nose at the Canadian Football League. Didn't know anything about it. Sat down last year, watched a game. And he says, now I can't get enough of it. And says, if you're an NFL fan, give the CFL a chance. It's a way, way better product. You get that kind of thing out there through Ricky, maybe you develop a fan base. We'll come back with more and with Ricky when Primetime continues in a moment. We're at the bottom of the hour, and the radio program continues. It's Primetime, coast to coast on the Fan Radio Network in Canada and the United States, the nation's most listened to sports talk presentation. Also simulcast on Rogers Sportsnet. Yours truly, Bob McCown, along with Rob Faulds and Paul Jones in our Toronto studios. And here he is, busier than a one-armed paper hanger, the man himself, Ricky Williams. Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
This has been, I know, an incredibly hectic day for you. How does this compare with, Heisman time, going to the Dolphins' first NFL camp, Are you surprised by the amount of attention and media?
Yeah, I was
today?
just talking to Beth about this earlier today, and how this is something I've never experienced before. You know, and I led the league in rushing. I've won the Heisman Trophy. I've done some pretty amazing things in the world of sports. And I've never experienced anything like I'm experiencing today.
Did it surprise you, or did you even think about it before today?
I didn't even really think about it. I mean, you know, I really have this problem where I'm usually stuck in the moment, you know, so I don't really look forward to what things might be or how things might turn out. I just really am an introverted type of person, and I really stay to myself. So, you know, this whole day it never occurred to me that anything could happen like this.
Give me, in a couple of words, what was day one like on the football field?
On the football field, for me, you know, for the guys, they've all been here for a week, but for me, it was day one. So, just in and of itself, the first day of training camp is tough mentally and physically, and so I spent most of my energy trying to learn a new playbook, trying to get my steps right, trying to, you know, get on the same page with the rest of the offense, and so it was pretty much just football stuff.
Ricky, how difficult will it be for you? I mean, not only, you know, like any football training camp, getting in shape, learning the playbook, but now you got a new set of rules to deal with too.
I'm not worried about the rule changes. I think one of the things that makes me such a good football player is my passion for learning, and the learning curve here is, you know, it gives me an opportunity to learn a whole lot in a short amount of time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Ricky, let me ask you on the reaction you got from the other Argo players when you walked into the locker room, had to get changed. What was their reaction to you as you stepped in?
I got a lot of smiles, you know, a lot of hugs, a lot of handshakes, a lot of "we're happy to have you here." That was 100% of it. It was 100% positive.
You got a crash course, I understand, last night on the CFL rules, didn't you?
A little bit. I mean, they're trying to feed it to me gently, you know, but I'm learning as I go.
Can you even assess how it may change your game, the ability to not have to be standing still in the backfield before a play is called? Can you even begin to figure out how much of an advantage that might be for you?
Well, not in the sense of what it's gonna look like, because I've only done it for one day. But I can say that the way this league is, it's more of a passing league, and the way that the Argonauts use the running backs in the passing game, it's really a lot like a slot back or a receiver. So I think in the big picture, I think it's a part of my game that I've never had the opportunity to really work on to this extent. So I look forward to becoming a better route runner, a better receiver, you know, and improving my hands.
Ricky, when you think about the potential that's there in that regard, and, you know, project down the line to next year, because we've heard that it's 1 year and then back you go, how much better will that make you, well, if and when you go back to the NFL?
I think it'll, you know, like I said, I take a lot of pride in being versatile, and my versatility hasn't been used in the NFL the way I would have liked it to have been used. You know, I like to catch the ball, I like to do things other than run the ball, but I've never had the opportunity. So I just think it'll make me more versatile and more well-rounded when I go back.
In that case, in this game especially, the running backs do not touch the ball an awful lot. So if you have a game where you only get 12 to 15 touches, is that going to be a problem? Or are you one of those players that has to have the ball in your hands?
Well, it depends if we win or if we lose. If we win, then it was enough, and if we lost, then it wasn't enough. That's the way I look at it, at least.
Ricky, I know you got you've already had a million things on your plate today. It's one of the busier days of your life, and we're not going to keep you too much longer. We look forward to having an opportunity to see you in studio down the road at some opportunity, and thanks a lot. Congratulations. Welcome to Toronto, all those things, and we'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. There's Ricky Williams. To get into and have fans have an opportunity to get to know Ricky would take an extensive amount of time, and I'm not totally comfortable in doing it over the telephone. And so that's why Ricky will come back. And I wanted to deal, for those of you who will say, you know, why didn't you get into philosophies and life and this and what he thought of and
what he did and why he's here and all of that. It's
all that other kind of stuff. We will get to that. There is time for all that, and we're hopeful either later on this week or the first part of next week. Ricky will be in here for a long time. And see, he's even suggested, he may even take phone calls.
From the sounds of things, you ask him a question like that, like that's it for our little 10-minute segment, because the deep thinker that he is, and from what we've heard of him, he's going to go on and explain to you in depth. So you're right. I think it's probably the best thing just to deal with the football part of it now.
Plus, it sounded like he was doing the dishes there too. As the first guy
Training
in camp,
table.
he probably had to do dishes tonight.
Yeah. Well, and I can say I spent about an hour and a half with him last week, and you get into topics where, you're sitting across the table from me with your elbow on the table and your chin in your hand, and I'm sure that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
It is very easy to be captivated by him. You may not understand everything that he says. You may not believe what he believes. But to say that this is a fascinating and very deep guy is an understatement. And it requires, you have to give him the opportunity to tell his story. And the story is not a short story. It's a long and involved story, and he's perfectly willing to tell it, and however long it takes. And we just wanted to give him that opportunity, and this was not going to be it.
You wonder if that could be tough for a football player. When you think about the environment in which they work, where quick decisions, like you don't have time to stop and think. It's more read and react than it is. I mean, you've gone through stuff, as you said, Falsey, in terms of reps, but sometimes a guy like that gets lost, and coaches will pick him out and say, hey, he thinks too much. He doesn't play, and you don't see that with Ricky Williams. He's a guy that is a terrific player, maybe in spite of his deep philosophical mind.
Is there any chance Ricky Williams won't be a success in the Canadian Football League? I'm talking about as a football player.
Well, there is that possibility that he just doesn't catch on. I mean, the motion can be a problem to a lot of players. There is that outside possibility, but he's proven that he can bust through a line and make things happen. And I think that this offensive line that the Argos have set for this year can give him an opportunity and a space to get through. He's not the big Ricky Williams that we've seen. He's a slimmer, trimmer Ricky Williams, and
might be good for the CFL.
That might be perfect for this league. I expect him to be very successful up here.
Well, and here's the other thing,
and
Bob.
he's got a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, but let's define that before you get to your point. Define success as it pertains to Ricky Williams. Another back comes to the Canadian Football League, playing in his first year. Maybe a guy who's been released by the NFL. Pretty good running back, but for whatever reason has been released. Whatever his scenario is. Comes up here, gains 1,000, 1,200 yards. That's pretty good. Ricky Williams gains 1,000 or 1,200 yards. Is that good enough? Ricky,
well,
a
if the
success or a
1,200
failure?
if the 1,200 yards that he gets are pivotal to the team being successful, you can get 1,200 yards
in garbage time.
in a lot of time.
But what's the expectation of this guy? Are we expecting
I think it's
Jim
I think
Brown
it's-
reincarnate
No,
100
I think it's
yards
directly tied to the success of the team, as much or as little.
there'll
as
be
he
huge
does.
expectations, though. You're right. There'll be huge expectations that every time he gets the ball, it's a 40-yard rip.
Well, but sometimes you can go out and go in motion right and take 5 guys with you, and they run it back left. And why? Well, we know we were
Yeah,
worried
but that's
about
us.
Ricky.
That's you and I. That would be us philosophizing about that, or somebody in the newspaper, writing that. Even though he only gained 60 yards, Ricky did this, this, and this. Here's the truth: there'll be 30 or 40 or 50,000 people in that stadium, and a million watching on television. They're not going to have that analysis. Their expectation is Ricky Williams, Heisman Trophy winner, NFL MVP.
So what does he have
rushing
to do?
leader.
Bust a couple every game?
I don't know. I think it's a valid question. The bar for Ricky is so high. The excitement in this city is palpable right now. But what does he have to do?
I think you got to be careful there, because you look at the Argos. This was not a chopped liver team. Look at the rest of the guys that the Arland Bruces, Tony Miles, like there are. I mean, Damon Allen himself,
Johnson and Avery in the back.
Hey, there are a lot of guys who can play, and what does it do to them if you skew it? Hey, we got to get Ricky off. We got to get Ricky going. You don't want to. I don't think you want to create too much of that in your locker room or out in the field.
By what I've heard you say about Ricky, and just that quick little chat that we had with Ricky, I get the feeling that his expectations are going to be a lot less than ours. That if he can have a 60-yard game and the team wins,
There's no question. I think
he'll
you're
be
100%
delighted.
Right.
He'll be thrilled with his performance.
100% right. I don't think Ricky doesn't.
And 1,200 yards, when he maybe could have had, should have had 2,000. He's going to say, did the 1,200
But he's also
yards
looking
help
forward
me?
to the other stuff too, Falsey. And you heard him say that.
Catching the ball.
I have more potential that, in the NFL, 3 yards, cloud of dust, 3 yards, cloud of dust, 3rd and 4. Okay, do we give it to him or I pick up a blitz and there's more things to him as a football player, it sounds like, and he's looking forward to getting that opportunity to show them up here.
We'll have lots more time to talk about Ricky Williams. In fact, we spent an hour and 45 minutes already talking about him and a little bit to him. And we can confirm to you, though we don't have a date, that Ricky will join us in studio, and we'll have a nice long chat, and we may even take some phone calls. And Ricky will not be a stranger. And I've said it before, I'll say it one more time. I think you'll be delighted by what you see and hear.